Hey everyone, welcome to week 10. I just wanted to check in briefly here on Monday, November 9th, and see how everyone's doing, talk about what you're doing this week, and just to go over something from the quiz last week. I hope everyone is doing well, taking time to take care of yourselves. Hopefully everyone's feeling a little bit relieved with the outcome of our presidential election. I know I am. There's still a lot going on in the world, obviously, but I like I said, I hope everyone is finding ways to take care of themselves and manage stress and all that good stuff. So this week, 2 reading assignments, May Wiskin and Bijan Stephen. They're both in our book. We're moving into the chapter How We Connect, and both of these deal with sort of, the idea of digital culture, digital technology. You can see that there's one writing assignment. It's due Sunday. It's the rough draft of the introduction with a working thesis statement. And so if we look at essay 3, it's the third and final essay for the class. The complete final draft is due December 6th. So you've got about a month to work on this, which I think is a pretty decent amount of time. So you want to manage your time well. Again, Sunday, you just have to submit the introduction paragraph with a thesis. The whole paper has to be 6 to 7 pages. That's not including works cited. So 6 minimum full pages of text. You could go up to 7 pages of text, but this does not include the works cited. And what you're looking at here is you're picking a part of digital culture. It could be something like a social media app. It could be a video conferencing tool. One time somebody wrote about cryptocurrencies. It could be the devices themselves, smartphones, tablets, that sort of thing. And you're describing, giving some context, some historical context, the invention, if you will, of the technology you chose. And then the bulk of the paper is you critically thinking and evaluating the change or changes that you think this technology has brought about in our society. So it could be, changes in our behavior, changes in the way we communicate. They could be positive, they could be negative, they could be some of each. So that's what you're doing with this paper. You're following academic format, intro, body, conclusion. Your body paragraph should all have topic sentences. They should be organized well. You should use transitions as you move from sentence to sentence if need be, paragraph to paragraph. Thesis statement should be the last sentence of the intro. And in terms of sources, you're citing 4 sources, and one of the sources has to be from our book, from the chapter How We Connect. The other 3 you're finding on your own, or with the help from our librarian, Nikki Karam. And you do want to make sure that you follow MLA. So that means 12-point Times New Roman font. The upper right-hand corner of every page should have your last name and the page number. And then on the first page in the upper left-hand corner, you've got that heading info and then a title for your paper. Should be centered. It doesn't have to be underlined or bold or anything. Just keep everything 12-point Times New Roman. You'll be good. Make sure you do run, some kind of proofreading check, spell check, grammar check, especially if you're seeing that, like, that there are patterns of maybe fragments or comma errors. Comma errors are super common. Everybody makes comma errors. It's not an indication of any kind of flaw. Nobody expects people to memorize all of the commas rules. The more you write, the more they might become kind of natural to you, but that might not be the case, right? So use the tools we have. Use a grammar check. Use a spell check. Okay, so that is essentially what you're doing this week. So that's essay 3. The final draft's not due for a while, but it'll be here before you know it. I know it's like 80 degrees today, but it is already November 9th. But what you're handing in Sunday is the intro. And as you can see, I'm still working through grading essay 2. I have 8 left. So if you're one of those 8, I appreciate your patience. I will get to it. I'm hoping to finish them today. Looks like somebody maybe made a late post because I think I had all these done. At any rate, the thing I wanted to also talk about a little bit were signal phrases. So there was a quiz last week on signal phrases, and the first question was you had to find I think 3 examples of signal phrases that Aaron Hanlon used in his paper, in his essay. So, when we use sources, we're either summarizing, right? We're doing paraphrase, or we are using quotes, right? That's how we use source material. And we need to use source material as writers because we need evidence to support whatever claim we're making. Any subject, any discipline, whatever the topic is of the paper, you're making a claim. 99.9% of the time, you're making some kind of argument, some kind of thesis. So you need evidence to back it up. So we use sources, and we want to use reliable sources, right? I think I mentioned this in a previous video. So you're either going to summarize, paraphrase, or quote the sources that you use. If you're quoting, right, you almost certainly, you need some kind of introduction to the quote. You can't just have a quote sitting like it, in a paragraph by itself. So not only are you using quotation marks, but you have to have some kind of citation, right? And a signal phrase is the best way to do that. So a signal phrase could be, according to you'd want to spell out the whole name of the institution the first time you were mentioning it, right? If you're gonna, and you can use acronyms in your writing, but you want to use the full word the first time, and then you can use the acronym. Okay. All right. So this is your signal phrase, right? According to Community College of Philadelphia professor Jane Doe, commas are important, right? Who says they're important? Oh, Professor Jane Doe from Community College of Philadelphia, right? I mean, you could even add a little more information about your source. You could say, English professor or something. And maybe this is a direct quote from Jane Doe, Professor Doe. Okay. And if you got it from her book and it's on page 34 of her book, you're going to give us the page number. So when I go to your works cited page as a reader, right, I get to the end of your paper. Now I can find the source, right? I go through the list. Oh, Jane Doe, her book, the title of it. Commas are wonderful, right? And then if I get that book and I go to page 34, I should be able to find this quote. So it's all that's what we do, right? When we're using sources in the body of the paper, we want to cite them using a signal phrase, right? Which tells us who the author is. If you're quoting verbatim, you have to use quotation marks. If there's a page number, if it's not an e-source, you have to include the page number, right? And there are a couple different ways. You don't have to say according to, right? You could say Community College of Philadelphia English professor Jane Doe argues that commas are important, right? Or you could start with the quote, right? Commas are important, claims CCP professor, right? Jane Doe. And again, you could put the page number at the end if it's from a page in the book. So, right, these are all signal phrases. In every one, right? You're telling the reader where you got that information, right? You're giving them the name of the source, a bit of their credentials, who are they, why did they matter? Oh, well, this is an English professor, so of course they know something about commas, right? You want to use first person verbs, right? Argues, claims. Okay. So signal phrases. You want to use them whether you're quoting, paraphrasing, summarizing, right? Because this doesn't have to be a quote. Maybe you just paraphrased. Maybe she didn't say commas are important. Maybe that's your paraphrase or your summary of her, right? So any way you cut it, you really need signal phrases. So in the quiz, a couple people, I think for that first question, maybe missed the mark, misunderstood a little bit what a signal phrase is. So they are important. As writers use them, professional writers use them, writers in college need to use them. So in essay 3, being that you have to have 4 sources, it's a 6-page minimum paper. I'm going to see a lot of in-text citations, right? So if you're not confident about signal phrases and in-text citations, let me know, and we can go over it more. But for now, at least, hopefully this is helpful. with some examples of how you go about citing sources. You never, like I said, you never want to see on the page just a quote. You always have to have, something to introduce the quote. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to just go with a signal phrase, which attributes, the quote to someone. And it needn't always be a person, right? It could be an organization, right? So, according to the Modern Language Association, that's who MLA is, right? Modern Language Association. Make sure you capitalize, right, when required, and then MLA would be the acronym, if you want to put that in there. Commas are important, right? So, and maybe that would just be, again, a paraphrase or a summary from them. And maybe there is no page number because you got it from an e-source that didn't have pages. So, there are dozens of varieties of how these could look, but the bottom line is you have to have them. If you don't, it's plagiarism. Right? If you're taking someone else's words or their ideas, even if you're taking their idea, putting it into your own words, it's still not your ideas. You can't claim ownership of them. And even if you have a works cited page with with sources listed, that doesn't tell me where in the paper the information came from. You have to have both. You have it in the paper itself, and then at that works cited at the end. So if you have, for this next paper, you're going to have a minimum of 4. If you want to have more sources, great. But you have to have at least 4. All 4 of the sources on your works cited page would be, I should be able to find all of them in the paper itself. Somewhere from between the introduction, the body, or the conclusion, somewhere, all 4 of those sources need to appear, right? And I just put that in the center because works cited goes in the center. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. No discussion board this week. You don't have to have a class discussion about the essays that you're reading. Both of these students generally find pretty interesting. May Wiskin looking at the idea of like an addiction to digital technology, particularly gaming, if we have any gamers in the class. And then Bijan Stephen looking at social media as a tool for political movements, but specifically Black Lives Matter, that movement. So hopefully you find them interesting. Start thinking about Essay 3. I do want to see the rough draft of the intro by Sunday. I guess that's about it. Please take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and reach out if you have any questions. Okay, talk later. Bye-bye.